I typically save it to my computer. But.
All right, Fern, we're back. We've got the missing link.
Exactly.
Todd O is back from Drive Fitness. You've probably heard of him. He's been on the show numerous times. Flow Master. What other accolades does Todd have, Fern? Any?
Since you like to talk about athletics, he was a baseball player.
That's right.
Division I?
Something like that. There was a division in there somewhere.
There's a division.
There's only one Division I athlete on this podcast.
By the way,
right.
I do want to bring up the fact that that post, that meme of you being a basketball player just reeks of jealousy.
Oh, with me and Jordan?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what?
I mean, we all know that that's me. You put your face on my body.
What did you do? A meme with the Last Dance or something like that?
Yeah, just a picture with Jordan. You know what, though, Fern? I didn't think of that, but now that you mention it, probably deep down, I do have some jealousy.
Yeah, no, there's some Freudian shit going on there, right? That's just.
I lay on the couch and talk about it. Did you guys watch that? That was.
Oh, great!
I know you watched it, Todd. Yeah.
Oh no, I was trying to watch it last night and couldn't get to it, but I was like, oh god, I have to go back and watch this.
You know, when I heard about it just right before, it was just like online and I saw it pop up. I'm sure maybe you had heard about it prior, but I was like, how are they going to get 10 parts out of this? And I was like, they could have made it like 100 and I would still watch it.
You could not depart from Dennis Rodman and get 10 episodes out of it.
Well, they did a 30 for 30 on Rodman alone.
I know.
It was like 2 hours and that was entertaining. I mean, so for me, that was like, what was it, 97, 98 was their last year, Todd?
I think so.
Champion?
Yeah, I think that's the season that they're.
I was like, that's like my sophomore year in college. I didn't, not having grown up played basketball for obvious reasons, I didn't follow a whole lot, like a little bit of the Bulls, a little bit of the, Duke around when Leitner and Hurley were there. Cause it was like, when you're in middle school and the beginning of high school, it's just like, that's what you're supposed to do. It's how you talk.
Did Hurley give you hope?
I was going to say, of course he liked Leitner and Hurley. Who did you like at that time, Fern? What team did you like? Michigan. It's essentially Michigan.
No,
Duke. And if you're the Duke guy, then you're not my friend.
Yeah, but Duke won. Leitner hit
but that doesn't matter.
I was both. I always liked. I'm just a fan of college basketball. I do like Duke, but I'm also a UNC fan. Like from I like good basketball, But the Fab Five, I mean, that was a culture change that they facilitated.
Right. Yeah.
That was also a 30 for 30, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or some sort of documentary, ESPN documentary about them. Yeah. It was great.
I never understood or watching The Last Dance and you hear about like this triangle offense and just Jordan yelling at people. Like there was a scene where he was yelling at people. It's like, having not played it at that level, you don't realize how detailed, even baseball, I'm sure has that, Todd, where unless you're at a certain level, you don't understand the intricacies of this sport. Does that make sense? To see it all, I'm just like, wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. When you're just watching a sport and just watching a game and seeing it happen, you're like, oh, that's really cool. When you look at the finer details, when you know more about it, it's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Like growing up, I loved baseball and I would go to the Met games with my father and, keep score. But you're just like, literally, I was like, someone pitches, someone hits, and that's what goes on. Like, you didn't realize there's like, I'm throwing this pitch for this reason, and I'm trying, it's crazy.
Yeah, seeing the slight shifts in positions that the position players make based on the pitch that's coming, based on the batter that's up, based on the count, like all of those little things that making a play possible that wouldn't be possible if they didn't know that information,
I think baseball arguably has like the most intricacy involved with it because of what you just stated.
Oh, yeah.
It also has the largest amount of useless statistics.
It has a ton of statistics and they're becoming more and more useful. Like the more I get to know the game now compared to when I played, it's completely different based on those statistics and what they can do. It's pretty interesting, pretty crazy.
Moneyball's based on that, about how they rearranged like who they bring into on their lineup, not their lineup, but like how they start drafting and trading players based on the intricacies of on base versus walks and just crazy stuff like that.
Yeah, it was like they kind of were one of the teams that started the trend with all of these different analytics, right? And now most of the league has transitioned to at least use a part of that, right? So the whole game has changed a ton since I played. I'll tell you what, I wasn't concerned with my launch angle when I was swinging the bat. I was just trying to hit the ball. There was no exit velocity from the ball coming off my bat. There was nothing I was worried about there.
It's probably very similar to when you guys watch me exercise and hit across a workout, and you're like, wow, there's so much going on that I didn't even realize because I'm not at that level that Jay is at. Like,
see, when you were talking about the triangle offense and Michael Jordan yelling at people, I was thinking about me yelling at you at every seminar we work at, trying to demand better out of you, but there's not very much good happening.
Last question on the Chicago Bulls. Is Jordan the best ever?
My answer is yes, but
I think so.
It's hard to argue that to some degree, you know, based on times and games and that kind of stuff. But no one else did what he did.
I just had I didn't realize how good he was even at the high school level to the college level. It's impressive to me now, having lived through those times of your life, to realize at 21, he's beating and better people like at 27, 28, who are physically in their prime. Like, that's what I found so impressive.
Well, Kobe was like that, but Jordan again was a culture change. Like, there was a culture shift with Michael Jordan, and then Kobe is very similar to Michael. Let's not just take away anything that Kobe ever did, because he's one of the greats, probably top 5, maybe top 3. But after Jordan, the idea of what was the greatest of all time changed. And everything with regard to who's the greatest of all time is basically measured next to him. So it's hard to say that somebody else, because that's always the question, is who's the greatest all the time, and they're like so and so, and then you immediately compare them to Michael Jordan.
So I thought it was interesting in the documentary right off the bat, is as soon as he was drafted, you saw all the people saying that nobody that's only 6'6" is going to be able to dominate the game. And now, you know, because every great player before that, for the most part, were centers and were big men. Yeah. And now the game has changed, not completely, but enough to where it's like everybody now in the conversation is Kobe or LeBron, and they're all 6'6"
or taller,
6'8", but they're not all 7-footers. I mean, you got Durant or you got Garnett or something like that.
6'11", but he's not a center per se. I mean, he is,
right, but they're also not in the conversation for the greatest of all time.
They're just not as versatile. Like, you're not as fast. You're not as, it's just, they're different, you know?
Right.
Jordan looked like he put on a few pounds. Fern, you think you could take him right now?
No, not even that guy. Like, that guy's he's such a freakish competitor that I bet he still is pretty good.
Do you think he can still dunk and move like he used to? He's got to be pushing 60, and he looks like he's got 30 pounds on him.
No, he's too old for that. I mean, he might be able to still dunk. I don't know. I mean,
he looks good.
He's 6'6". I mean, let's be honest. Like, he doesn't have to jump that damn high to dunk. So
I'll tell you, one of the craziest parts of the documentary was just, there was a scene where he was walking, he was like goofing on that Jerry Krause guy. But the part that drew me in was he had the ball in one hand.
Every player in the NBA, I know that you can't even. The ball doesn't even touch your hand.
I could barely do that with a baseball.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, look at that little teeny tiny thing you just put in the camera right there.
That is actually not that big of a deal. That's not that big of a deal, Jay, because I can do that.
The good thing about that is it makes other things look bigger, if you know what I
mean. Yeah. Until you realize it's just an illusion. Yeah.
Makes the golf ball look bigger when you're holding it.
Speaking of that, you guys were surprised that I stopped wearing deodorant. You guys are still wearing deodorant right now? Well, guys, to be fair, are both at your boxes.
No. Neither one of us were surprised. We were both disgusted.
Yes. And just I'm just surprised that you and Roz are quarantining at your own house, staying away from each other. She's got you locked in one bedroom, and you guys haven't, had any contact since this happened.
Oh.
So it's been a couple months now, just you and that little hand, huh?
It's not true. We had morning sex this morning. Unusual, but it happened. And no, I said to her the other day, I was like, do I smell ever? And she was like, you don't ever really smell. So I was like, maybe
Hard to smell somebody from across the house, though.
Yeah.
I said I might not wear deodorant when this whole thing ends. Like, to be fair, like, except at the gym. I said maybe if I go to the gym or jiu-jitsu, like, I'll slap it on. But if I'm just hanging out, there's no need. It's probably not good for your body.
Oh, I would agree with that.
Right? Like, it's a chemical. So Todd, I'm highly addicted to Peloton right now. I was just telling Fern.
Nice. Who's your favorite trainer? What's his name?
What's his name? Yeah.
Like, the first day I got on Peloton, my good buddy from college is on there as well, and I was like, this is obviously just an excuse for most men to look at attractive women on this bike. Like, the first thing you pick up is like all of these women and the men are attractive. Roz has asked me this. I don't have a favorite. All I look for is the music that they're playing. Turns out, the same instructors tend to play the music I like, but I don't care about that.
What is the music you like?
Yeah, I'm curious what too.
Well, typically I'll look for rock and 80s rock in the music. Yeah. No different than I work out to. Yesterday, I took an all Imagine Dragons ride. And that was kind of cool. I know you like Imagine Dragons, Todd.
I don't even. I'm great. All Imagine Dragons. There she is.
Roz, they said you think I smell.
She wasn't wearing her mask. I'm surprised.
But I'll tell you what, that workout, it smashed me. I was messed up. My legs were like, when you're like work out hard, it's hard to even fall asleep. Like, the Peloton's been a lot of fun. I would recommend it. Like, at this point, I would actually recommend it for people. I'm still saying do CrossFit, but it's a great addition.
That's good that you still want people to do CrossFit. That's at least we're in alignment there.
No, I wake up, I do a Peloton workout, and then I'll hit like a CrossFit style workout after that.
So this brings up an interesting question, which is because everybody, basically all CrossFit affiliates, are doing a really crappy version of Peloton.
Yeah.
Right. So what about it? What about that experience do you find so appealing that for somebody who's never done Peloton could somehow potentially integrate into their virtual classes?
Yeah, no, that's interesting and it's, a little bit of a background. I taught spin for a long time, and I always enjoyed spin because I enjoy the music of it, and I've always had a good time. Roz has been doing the Peloton app for close to a year now, I'd say. She'll throw it on the treadmill prior to moving to Colorado. Like, you can hop on any bike and technically use the Peloton app. You just might not see some of the information on the screen, but they have walking, stretching, etc. So for one, and trying to bring it to what boxes are doing, it just gets me to move to begin with. So even though nothing is live now, like, I'm watching only pre-recorded episodes or pre-recorded classes, if you will. One, being able to look at the music is interesting because I'm like, cool, I'll take a class that has like Billy Joel or that has 80s rock, like I said, which gets me fired up. Todd, what's your favorite Billy Joel song?
They're all so good. How can I pick just one?
How do you truly could not name a Billy Joel song right now, could you?
Probably not.
How do you not? Yeah. Piano Man? Like, can you even just throw up
Well,
Piano
I could have
Man?
said that. Yeah.
All right.
So I don't know if it'd be worse for me to say that and be wrong or to say it and maybe get it right.
I think Piano Man over Uptown Girl?
No, I'm just saying, like, that's a song
okay.
you should know. No, I mean, neither of those are as best. Scenes from an Italian Restaurant would be the best. If you're listening to this episode still, I would like to know what your favorite Billy Joel song is. So anyway, you have that aspect. Probably the two most important things are very similar to CrossFit. I mean, that's what I'm always telling Roz. I'm like, what I'm loving about this is the same thing that causes you to fall in love about CrossFit, except they're doing some things better. for one, you have a daily score. Like you literally can see your improvement daily. So, in CrossFit, we all fall in love with it because our times go down. We're PRing, but sometimes that's a week apart. It's 2 weeks. We don't hit the same workout for 3 months. They use wattage and power. So every time I take a class, I can literally try to beat my previous score. I think that's the first thing they do well.
But doesn't it change the duration of the ride? Doesn't it change the perceived incline or whatever it is that you're riding up? Wouldn't that impact your wattage and power?
Yeah, so there's a few things that impact it. I mean, one, there's all sorts of length classes. So it will give you your best score for a 15 versus a 30 versus a 45 versus an hour, say. So, and for me, when I'm on the Peloton, and those that have used it will understand, like, you can see the entire leaderboard, like literally anyone that's ever taken this specific class, and it will show you their final score and where they are at that point in their ride. So, I mean, their app has millions and millions of dollars. Like the details in it are exceptional. And I'll tell you what I look at primarily is, so say I take a 30-minute class, it'll say like your best 30-minute class is, say 300. And then it will show me where I was at, where I am currently in that, even a different class. So I'm basically competing against myself neck and neck. That's the most motivating part of it. Because it's like, if you got on it, yes, I would want to beat Todd. I would want to beat Fern.
You would never beat either one of us, though. So good thing we don't try to talk us into it, because then you'll have to find something else to do.
But there's something really motivating about actually beating your own score and knowing that's you. And then, they have the whole follower thing. So I know like my buddy and I typically try to do the same class every day. So I'm, knowing that he's going to try to beat me later on, gets me to push. It's all of that is very interesting.
Right, but that's all essentially the same stuff that we do. What's different? Because I mean, that's no different than being like, all right, I get benchmarks. Maybe I don't get to track it every single day, but I've got benchmarks in the gym. And then I've got my buddy Joe that comes to the early morning class, and I'm coming to the noon class. Well, I see what his time is, so I want to try to beat him.
So so based on that, I think I know the answer, and you guys can tell me what you think. They have a distinct advantage, which is I'm stationary and have to be staring at this screen. Where in CrossFit, that's not the case, right? So they have your undivided attention for that 15, 30, whatever the time. I've never done it, but whatever those time domains are, where that's really not the case in CrossFit. That'd be significantly more difficult, potentially impossible to do.
Right, and I'm assuming the delivery system is different, right? The delivery system is better to where you get to see all that stuff, and it guarantees that you see all that stuff. Because as you guys know, there are people that come into the gym that don't really they might track their times because we ask them for it, but they don't record it themselves. They don't keep track of any of that kind of stuff. This forces you to see where you're at. So maybe it's just guarantees that those things that we try to do with our members actually happens with people on the bike.
I think the only way that you'd be so they have your undivided attention because I'm sitting on a bike and can't go anywhere staring at this screen. The other thing is there's no other way via Peloton, because of the nature of that, to get input other than sitting on the bike. So the input, there's no way to avoid them getting data, right? So they're in a position where like you are going to get data 100% of the time of the athlete. Yep. We're the only way to do that in CrossFit would be if you went more along the Orange Theory line and you had everybody wearing a heart rate monitor. And then that would be the only way that you would be able to 100% get data on people, which would be interesting because I do think that's a useful metric if paired with other stuff. So I guess the question is, what do you think would be the reasonable / feasible aspects of that to try to implement in CrossFit in order to maximize engagement?
Well, and let me say something else. Part of what you're saying is entirely true. Like there's all these stats, you can high five each other. I think there's a way you can even like FaceTime on the screen. Because of that, I do believe there's issues. Like I got highly like addicted. Like I would love it. I want to do it again, but I'm like, I said to Roz, we were talking about this yesterday. I'm like, it's cool because you see this score and I'm like, for example, I hit 400 even on a 45-minute ride yesterday. It was like, it smashed me. That was tough. I don't know exactly how they're calculating your power. It's basically your resistance and your cadence, creating your average power, and then somehow they're factoring that in over time. But I'm like, man, if I truly want to get better, I'm going to need to not go at 100%. Like, that was the most I've ever been smashed on a bike. Like, that clock ended and I basically turned the resistance down to 0 and could barely move it. So like today, I'm going to shut off some of those numbers. They still are capturing it, but I won't have them on my screen, because point is, it's like CrossFit. If you go too hard every day, you're going to wind up actually doing worse. So without that knowledge, I might try to go again and go again and go again. So I'm saying there's pros and cons to it. You know, the other thing is different than CrossFit, like Todd said about the whiteboard, which is true, is it's, you know, you're literally seeing second by second where your other person is. So it forces you to push. Like, and knowing what we know about power output, it's like, I know if I sprint hard for 20 seconds and ride it out, it might actually bump up my score faster. So you're doing different things. I think for CrossFit to mimic it either virtually or in person, it would be very hard until there are things that are engineered. Like, maybe you have to wear something on your, similar to like a chip at the games, like you're wearing something to measure the depth of your squat, and then where you extend. Like, we're talking like really next level stuff.
So do you think
how you would do that?
So tell me this, do you think the value in the Peloton is the things we're talking about now, which are just intricacies on how we collect data and how we display the data? Or is it the fact that you can walk up to the Peloton at any time and push the button and look at your class and do it whenever it works for you? Because I've talked to other affiliate owners that in this time are trying to figure out whether it makes more sense to do a Zoom class that you get actual coaching and it goes on at a specific time, or should you pre-record a video that any of your clients can come up and click the video at whatever time works for them? They don't get any personalized coaching, but they get coaching, like generalized coaching. Which one would be better? Or, you know, what's the value in one versus the other? And so that's what I'm more curious about with Peloton. It's like, clearly their technology is better than we're going to have it at the affiliate level. But for where we're at specifically in society with our gyms being closed, is there more value in me recording a bunch of videos beforehand and just let my members consume that at their, you know, at their convenience? Or is there more value in me providing like live coaching and live classes? And I don't know. I'm unsure.
I think it depends, right? So this is assuming you know what the consumer values, right? So some people, like, we all know that those people that are going to come into the gym and will always come into the gym, and there's no other option. But then there's people who are, you know, so Peloton has really kind of, I would say, really nailed down two things. One is the behavioral aspect of it, which is like, if I give you enough data and information and I collect it and I aggregate it and I display it properly, there's some inherent things psychologically that keep me engaged. The other aspect of it is the on-demand aspect of it, which again, you can't really ignore that. Like how can you do that? Can you create a video library and do that where my prime offer, where my premium offer is this in-person training? Because we all know that that's not, you can't beat that. But should we ignore the on-demand aspect of it, and should we create something that people can do on demand? The problem with that is it's a lot of work. Like, you need to be pretty savvy with a video. You have to do the editing. You have to figure out different ways to do that. And I think I've been kind of bouncing it around quite a bit, is like, I do, and I think Stu Brower has brought this up at least a little bit. It's worth exploring, you know, regardless of how you feel about him or the idea or whatever. It's worth exploring. But number one, because strictly from a business aspect, removed, like, you know, I provide a premium service, it's scalable. Number one, it just scales up as far as you need it to.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But you also got to look at what do you want your business to look like, and where does your skill set lend itself well with? And because it's, you know, the more time and resources you put towards this, the less time and resources you have towards something else, right?
1000%. And that's why I think I know where you're going with that.
Well, it's just so you've got to decide what you want to be, or figure out the resources to do everything. It's like you can't be everything to everyone. And so if my goal and what I want to do is provide that premium service, I know right now we're on the outside looking in because it's out of our hands and we're no longer allowed to provide that with the gym doors closed. But does that mean that I want to transition my business back to something like this? And for me personally, that's not terribly appealing, because I know at some point the doors are going to open back up and the resources are going to be thin as far as, am I going to try to still offer and find time to film these video classes that people can get on demand, or am I going to use my resources to own, to run my affiliate and operate my live classes? And, I don't want to get, I don't know. It's just a decision I think that has to be made, and the direction you've got to decide what you truly want to go. Because if you go half-ass either direction, it's not going to work out very well.
Agreed. And that's why I think order of operations matters. I think if right now your primary skill set is in-person CrossFit classes, really good training, meaning teaching, seeing, and correcting while giving people a good experience. If you're going to jump ship right now because there's this short-term thing happening and you're like, oh my God, this is the rest of existence, that's probably stupid. However, I do think that some of the good aspect of this, if you want to try to find some silver lining, is it is exposing a lot of people to some other things, right? So I think there's some people that are going to jump ship and they're going to go. And it's like, that's cool. Like, do your thing. I don't care. But I do think there is an opportunity for those, if you're just like, hey, I'm now going to put this in my business plan for whatever that time frame looks like. Like, how much time and money would this cost me? Can I build into a business model that can support that will then bring in more revenue and feed itself even more, right? So the idea is like, I'm going to do them both half-ass, or I can do my primary function really, really well with the intent of initially funding this demand aspect of training, right? That's what I think would be the intelligent means of doing it. The problem is I don't think most people are going to do that. I think they're going to jump ship or forget this ever happened and never talk about it again.
What do you mean jump ship, or never talk about
all virtual? Yeah. So meaning they're going to jump ship and like all virtual, they're going to get rid of their lease, or they're just going to go back to normal and ignore that this is a real opportunity. Because I look at it kind of like this. I actually really do want to entertain and try to do that, but I don't want to abandon my core offering at the expense of that, right? But it is now kind of in my layout on a timeline that says, when I get to it, if I can generate a certain enough revenue, I think it'll cost me roughly this much money and time or man hours. Can I pay that to then parlay that into a different revenue without ever abandoning what it is that I do? Like, can I build, like, said another way, can I build enough profit margin in that I can add this as an additional expense and start generating revenue off of it?
Yeah, and I think beyond just filming and editing and doing all of that stuff, I think there's going to have to be a platform that allows you to deliver this in a way. And I just think there's other people out there that do that really well. And at that point, no one's going to care. You're not going to, like, if there's somebody out of California that's doing this at a much higher level because they have either more experience doing it or more money doing it, even the people in Virginia Beach, in my assumption, would look for the best product out there. In my opinion, is like, I don't think that I would be a long ways away from offering the best product because of the amount of resources to go in to create not only the content, but also the platforms long term, right? And so I might have a brand awareness in my small sector, but if somebody's really looking for that Peloton version of this thing, they're going to look for the bigger, better brand that has more resources and all the rest of that stuff. So it's just a hard thing to wrap my head around, thinking that this is a true addition just because of what I know it's going to take. Now, I think it's possible if you have the resources and the time and you devote and the desire to do it, then hell yeah, go for it. But I don't know.
Yeah, I do think that, I think anybody who's immediately building this and be like, I'm going to have clients in Ohio and Florida and Probably not. Like, let's just agree on that. But I do think where at least initially, where you, potentially down the road, there does exist a scenario where that could happen. I think the realistic, more intelligent means of doing that would be allocating a specific amount that require, like I need a trainer to basically do 5 of these a week, and I need some editing. So let's call it $3,500 a month. Like, pay a trainer, get some editing, blah blah blah, and then I would use that as essentially like a low barrier of entry for people in the local area that would lend them to coming into my facility, right? So let's just say just to make the math easy, let's just say you called it $50, right? So $50, you get access to this 5 times a week, and you're going to do virtual. And this is not a stretch if you just do the numbers. So let's just say 3,500 divided by 50, 70 clients on this low barrier offer would not be a stretch if you just dropped a pin on your location and went out 5 to 7 miles. Like, that would not be out of the question. Now I've paid for it, so now it's not costing me anything, and I potentially could get to 100, and now I can reinvest in an app or another platform or something like that. So I don't think it's a stretch. I just think people are going to do it out of order. I think the order of operations here is important if you're going to do that. And I'm not telling anybody to do that. I think there's a certain amount of people that could do it and do it well, and that's not the majority. I just think there's some people that are going to do it out of order.
Well, let me go back to a couple of the questions you guys asked to maybe give you a little more insight. But I agree with Todd in the sense that even yesterday I was scrolling through Instagram. Everybody's putting up at-home workouts. Every gym, every influencer, anybody you know. So I got to the point where I'm like, why is anybody putting these up? Like there's why are boxes even doing it? Like, if I owned a box, why does Drive versus Rife not just say, hey, follow, what's the point in everybody putting up mediocre stuff?
Well, that's number one. It goes back to what I said earlier, and actually what Todd said earlier, which is that's a half-ass version, right? So what they're doing is they're delivering this virtual free thing, but what they've left out is, yes, it's on demand, but if we go back to using Peloton, that's only half of why Peloton is successful. So again, it's successful because they have really mapped out human behavior and people's desire to see and interact with those metrics, and it being on demand, right? So it's like, yeah, you gave out some free shit, but that's only half of it, at which point I'm no longer engaged. There's nothing keeping me engaged. There's no metrics involved with that. There's nothing pinging me to say, you did better this time. That's all on me. So if you were going to do that, you would need to pair them both. I don't think you can do them independently of each other.
So I think one thing we just pulled out of all of this is, if you're putting up workouts for at home, you need to be layering on some goals and the stimulus and those types of things to motivate people to do it. I mean, personally, the ones that I find, I've been hitting a lot of the ones from this dude, John, Obese to Beast, that we had on this podcast, simply because he puts up his scores and we're like similar. So it gives me something to shoot for. We also happen to have, the same minimal equipment laying around the house. So for me, that's someone that I look to. This dude doesn't have a level 1, right? He's dropped 200 pounds, but it's just, he's putting out decent stuff that I can do. So that's part of what motivates me. If you go back to your question, Todd, about, originally you were talking about the live and this and that. Personally, I don't care if it's live. And since I've been on it, they've only had, encore performances, if you will, like previously recorded ones. Starting tomorrow, this will be Wednesday of this week, they're actually doing live ones again, which like Roz looks forward to. She likes the live ones, but one of the cool features they have is on the screen, you can compare yourself to anyone that's ever taken the class, but also to the people that are actually taking it right now. So technically there always is a live class. Now, and I mean, just to show you like things that I'm impressed with on their app, like if I watch the live class, you have like your icon, right? Like your avatar in a circle, and going around that circle. What's that? What are you going to make fun of me? My hand gesture there?
No. Is your avatar a donut or just you with your shirt off, or both?
I think I actually had the best hour of their day shirt. If you guys want to, Jason Ackerman 78, if anybody wants to check me out on Peloton.
The most shameless self-promoter I've ever met in my life.
I have the best hour of their day shirt on, so hopefully most people have like fake names, and I'm like, hey, I want people to know it's me. Like I want them to compete, but it actually, a ring goes around your picture of how deep you are into class. Like it's pretty impressive. So
like a clock, essentially.
Basically, so if I start my class behind you, Fern, you might be ahead of me in your score, but I can be like, okay, I can catch up by this point, or there's not one thing they haven't thought of in that app. So
that's where I was gonna say. I think what makes this sustainable, and if anybody's like gonna try to tackle this in the future, from a CrossFit standpoint, I think wearable tech is mandatory.
It's got to be.
I don't think there's another way to do this, because it has to be. You have to go down the Peloton, which is proven to work. Which is I have to mandate that I get data from people. Like I have to set something up where, like, if you don't use it, then you don't get it.
Well, that's the only way you're going to really get people, going back to Todd's question about, I can only do it post, recording because of that data, right? Other than just score, because say you're in a 20-minute AMRAP. Actually, that workout, like remember the three of us, we talked about it, did 18-1 together, right? So say we were doing that separately at different times. It's one thing to know your final score, but it'd be another thing to be like, oh shit, at 10 minutes in, this is exactly where Todd was. So I want to be there. It's interesting to know. I think it should be said, like, I may continue with this post quarantine. Like this only started because of the quarantine. I never would have gotten on this bike if a box was open or I was able to train jiu-jitsu. But now, I mean, really, I think a lot of people are going to look at, hey, whether it's a bike or whether it's just training at home, I can do it, but you need to have that motivation. And
clearly Todd's gym is not closed. I'm just saying.
No, someone's doing crazy over there.
Yeah, somebody's working out in the back in the other room.
But for me also, it's just like after this, I'm probably going to get on, and I'm tired and I might not want to get on, but just getting moving and seeing the score right away, I'm like, I start pushing it because I'm like, I got to beat my previous score. Now, the other thing that we should talk about is we've only referred to the bike. I've also taken their workout or, strength classes, if you will, they have stolen so much from CrossFit. I mean, it's obvious anyone whose class I've taken has either taken their level 1 or currently does CrossFit.
Really?
In my opinion, based on what they're saying, I mean, from the fact that, they're blatant things like they use AMRAPs and EMOMs.
I mean, just look at everything in fitness has changed in the last 15 years because of that. Like, you look at everything has, whether they know it or not, they're influenced by CrossFit, right?
I think those people have probably taken their level 1 just by, they say things like posterior chain. Like you hear some coaching cues that are like cringy because you're like, oh, those are the things we tell people not to say. But I'm sure some of the challenges, you're coaching not knowing exactly what people are doing. So you have to just talk more than you would as a typical coach. But I can tell you, so I did one of their strength classes, and there's like, a little bit of some strength component where it's like goblet squats or whatever, because they assume people don't have a lot. But the challenge was then this 10-minute AMRAP kicks on. So this is where it's a challenge to coach CrossFit virtually. I was pushing myself and happened to be where the instructor was coaching for. But if I would have fallen ahead or behind, it would have been hard to coach. Does that make sense?
Is it also hard for you? So that's where when you leave the screen, it becomes hard. Like you lose that captive attention. And that's where I said, I don't even know that it's possible real time. Because what I don't want to be doing in the midst of functional movements is trying to look at the damn screen. Like that's just.
Well, so for example, this was a 10-minute AMRAP. It was 6 Turkish get-ups alternating, 25 hollow rocks, 12 push-ups. And, I watched a quick, I knew the movements, but I saw the demo. What I was trying to say, Todd, is, there were points in the workout. She's clearly doing it with you. I didn't see it.
Oh, okay.
And I can hear her saying like, hey, try to finish this round. And it happened to be where I was. Now, I don't need the coaching of Peloton. If anything, during the spin class, I'm like, talk less. Let me just listen to the music. But it did motivate me. And I'm sure during spin classes, they'll say some things that do get you a little fired up. So whether it's you have to be exactly where they are, just shouting out the right cheerleading type cues, I think there is room for it. There's room for it.
I mean, that's the same value that we get in our Zoom classes. Like, I try to take as many of my gym Zoom classes as I can. I do one a day, because whether I'm looking at the screen or whether I'm getting coached by the coach, knowing that somebody else is doing this with me holds me accountable and keeps me going. So it doesn't, like, it's way different. It's same as anytime you have one other person in the gym doing a workout with you. Just having some accountability is valuable.
And that's really what it is. It's the accountability.
Right.
It's getting started. It's, when you do have an idea of where you should be, it pushes you a little harder. So there's all those little things. I think, like I said, Fern and I talked about it briefly, but someone's going to come on board. Really, Peloton is doing CrossFit. The only thing that someone can do in this space is make it more CrossFit, like a barbell, Olympic lifts, heavier movements. But
gymnastics, yeah.
Right? So Peloton's treating the world as if they have dumbbells, and really that's it.
Well, if you're trying to scoop up the largest portion of the market, I don't know that there's any other option, which is, it has to be simple. You can't, the second you throw muscle ups or handstand walking in there, like, it just got, you just sliced your piece of the market by 99%.
Right, but someone will come in the CrossFit space and do it with the handstand walks, and
it might be best hour. I don't know.
It might be best hour, training. But point is, I think there is a market for this when it comes to just CrossFit. Do you disagree, Todd? What, Fern?
I just think I think that's going to be more challenging the higher the skill level goes. I think it goes really easy right now because you don't need coaching to do a hollow rock or a goblet squat or something like that. I think one of the things I've thought about is, if anything this quarantine shows, is that, like, nobody needs specialized programming, especially the general person. If anybody needs specialized programming, it's the person that wants to be elite or wants to do more, which I think is funny because everybody has it the backwards way, where it's like, I'm going to make my programming, the volume of it or the workouts that we do, for the best, for these people that are elite level. And then everybody else, well, if you can't snatch, then we need to do a one-off. You need a specialized program, and we need to do things one-off. I'm still on board with, like, programming for the best, scaling for the rest, but it's like, it's a general program that I can scale for everybody in my gym. And then if somebody really thinks they're elite or really great, then you need the one-on-one stuff to teach you or to help you excel at that kind of stuff. So thinking of this as a Peloton style thing with handstand walking and muscle ups and snatches, I don't see that happening.
Let me ask you, because as you're talking, Todd, I'm thinking this through about if I had unlimited resources and access to whoever I needed to make this happen, how would I do it? Jay, are there I don't want to say skill levels because you're riding a damn bike, but are there levels to Peloton? Meaning, like, if you can ride fast and hard than everybody else, are there different classes where, like, you can hop in those because those are harder, if you say, but, like, they're clearly not. You don't have to have more skill. I just have better capacity.
The only thing I've seen are there's some quote unquote pro rides. I've not taken one, so I don't know if it's like more mimicking, like, this is what you'd be doing. You'd be drafting, you'd be doing that, or if it's a little harder. Our mutual friend, Austin Maliolo, is also on Peloton, and he's only ever taken the pro rides,
Of course.
Obviously.
Of course.
But
of course. He whether he deserves to be there or not, he would just not let himself sink down to not doing the pro level.
In fairness, he's taken some of, like, the really chill rides. There's, like, scenic rides, but I think that's, like, when he has Haley in his arm, like, he's doing it more like with his daughter in his arms. But I can tell you, capacity and fitness transfers, because he crushes some of those rides. It's crazy, his score. So the fitness level transfers, and that was something else. Promoting CrossFit, I said to Roz, the class I took yesterday was like maybe like 10,000 had ever taken it, and I was in like the top 2,000, say, which isn't obviously great, but I was like, the fact that I've only been on this bike for a week and in the top 20% shows that CrossFit does transfer.
Yeah, I don't think that's debatable. Which again, it's just we could line up like mounds and mounds of
And I
examples
don't
and
want
proof of
anyone,
that.
yeah, and I don't want anyone listening to this think what I'm saying is this will get you fitter than CrossFit. This will get you better
No.
on the bike than CrossFit.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that compares to the fitness you will get from doing CrossFit.
So where I was going with that, the reason I asked you that question is because, again, there's a couple of things that I think you would have to build in order to make this sustainable, right? Which, again, this only makes the cost go up, right? Man hours, tech, all that stuff. So it'd have to be wearable tech. It have to be on demand, and then there would have to be multiple levels. Like there would have to be some built-in structure that would mimic, let's just call it 3 tiers of athletes in a class. Otherwise, it's not scalable. Otherwise I'm just limiting
easier
people.
rides. I do think there's like learn to use the bike type rides, that type of stuff. So there is some of that.
Yeah, I was just curious, right? But because that would be, in my mind, that would be mandatory if you were going to try to take this virtual. There's just no other way to do it.
Yeah,
you'd have to have the people who are going to do a ring row, and then in that same kind of day's worth of programming, depending on whatever you dropped yourself in virtually, there was a ring muscle up option in there.
Yeah, I will say, well, first of all, if we did this, we just had people take the online level 1, right? And then that way they know scaling, they know the stimulus.
There you go.
But I will say there are times, so the two main, you can only really adjust your speed, your cadence, and your resistance. There are times the instructor will have the resistance at a level and the cadence. I'm like, I cannot do that. Like, how are other people doing this? Like, and I'm sure there are fitter people, but I'm like, I'm relatively fit, and there's no way I can move my legs that fast with this resistance. So there's clearly scaling going on.
Yeah, I mean, but that's easy, right? That's a very easy skill, which is turn the dial down.
Right,
nothing
you're just saying,
to the extent.
That's like saying go lighter versus we're doing muscle ups today. You need to do pull-ups and dips.
Yes. So that I think would have to be a built-in aspect of it. Again, which now I'm not doing 1 workout a day. Now I'm doing 3 workouts a day that all have to be filmed, edited separately, and then posted to a platform of some type. So, and there's people that are writing programs that are doing that, there's a lot of people that are doing that. But the second that I have to turn on a camera and do some sort of post work and make a finished product, that changes the dynamic of this instantly.
When you guys know, there's nobody fits perfectly to any of those 3 categories is the other problem with that too, right? That's why we got to do what we do inside the gym. That's why I can't just have this as version A, B, and C, because nobody is 100% A, 100% B, 100% C. So I think it would be hard to mimic virtually or via video what we truly do in the gym. Now, can you get pretty darn fit throwing some dumbbells around and a kettlebell around, riding a bike, going for a run once in a while? And even if you don't move the best, are you still going to be really healthy and fit? Absolutely. And I think this is showing that to us. And like Fern said, there's a demographic of people that just want that convenience. It's going to be easy for them. And I think this is going to show people that they can work out at home. So I agree with you.
I agree with you, Todd. I would even take it one step further. Like you said, it'd be pretty darn hard. I don't think you could replicate it virtually. I don't think it's possible.
Right.
No, especially
but I do think you could scoop up a certain population, right? Like you could have a significantly larger net that you could cast as a small business if you decided to really put some time and effort behind this.
Well, and what Todd's implying is he's right, because no one fits in these categories, because that's why we coach, right? Someone might come in that can do 1 muscle up in a round, and now they have a different scaling option than simply someone that has to go to transitions versus pull-ups versus,
But this is where the on-demand aspect of it quasi solves that problem, because if they're just like, I can't do that, boom, they just move to a different one.
But some people will
you'd
never
have to build
get
a big enough library. You'd have to build a big enough library. You'd have to launch this platform with literally hundreds of options, so that it gives them time to kind of build some capacity to start moving around in there.
Well, and then what they do well also is you could have a muscle up program in the back end that's getting people towards that muscle up, even if they always choose option B, which is pull ups. Todd, when you were saying that though, I don't remember where we were, Todd, but we were talking about basically how this box or the programming or something was so crappy. And I remember you looked at me and you're like, that's what's crazy about CrossFit. Even shitty coaching and shitty movement still gets people really fit.
It doesn't matter. None of that matters. Like, it doesn't matter as much as we want to think so. Like, your programming doesn't matter. Just do a workout and go relatively hard. And like,
that's what people are going to realize right now. It's like, whether it's the 30 minutes on the bike or you're doing EMOMs or whatnot, it's just like, move daily, try to move with integrity, try to push yourself, above 80% most days, and you're going to be in the top 1% of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to be Division I baseball player level, or even Division. No. What were you, Division 3A? Todd?
JUCO?
Manager.
Was it JUCO school?
Manager. I cleaned up the Gatorade cups on the ground after the games.
I know we had intentions of talking about the reopening of the boxes, but we've been talking for a while. But really quickly, where are you guys at? This is going up Friday. So where are we at?
As far as what?
Officially or unofficially?
I mean, Boulder's supposed to open on Monday.
Are you really?
Like, completely?
I should, whatever they're calling this lockdown.
Phase 1?
Phase whatever, technically expires Sunday. Now, they may extend it. I don't know. But as of right now, from what I'm hearing, boxes are going to be allowed to open.
Georgia's opening Friday, I believe.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing too. So I wouldn't think we're far behind it. But I think along with, it's not just going to be like open the doors and you're back, operate as is. I've got to imagine there's stipulations. And in my opinion, if there's not given, stipulations from the government, if we don't take personal ones, we're irresponsible, right? So it's our job to figure out a way to introduce this back in and minimize the risk as much as possible. And cutting it loose back to 20 and 25-man classes is probably not going to be the most responsible thing to do. So I'm kind of waiting to hear what the news is, what they outline for us, what is going to be the regulations, how many people are allowed in a facility at a time, that kind of stuff. And then based on that, then just, throwing around some ideas on what we have to do. I think trying to figure out a way to offer more capacity via class times with less people in that. I mean, we've essentially been running our virtual classes at a 45-minute window rather than an hour. And I think that's probably something that ends up staying for at least the short term, to where it's like every hour class is replaced by 2 40-minute classes to try to get a similar number of people. I'm assuming we're going to be limited to 10 people or something like that. So can we get 10 people in? Can we get them out? Can we get another 10 people in through a relatively quick class, spend some time cleaning it up, take all those safety precautions in, but still offer as many classes as we can, but it's not going to be full bore back to what we were before we closed. I can't imagine.
Something like that though could be beneficial. Like maybe we'll get more people if it's like, hey, it's only 40 minutes. You get in, you get your ass kicked, you get out of here.
Yeah, I that's one of the things I think this, if anything, this has shown us that we can probably streamline and do what we do a little bit quicker, right? So maybe that's something that moves forward to where you don't need an hour-long class. There's pretty much most everything that you can do, as long as you're not over-programmed in a 60-minute session, that you can get done and move with a little more intention and probably accomplish the same goals.
That's the key, though. I think that only applies to people that have one thing programmed. Like somebody who's got skill, strength, Metcon, you cannot go to 40 minutes. Like that is impossible. The time space continuum will not allow it.
Yeah, this is a perfect time. I know there's a ton of people and a ton of gyms that have always been like, but my members want us to lift and to do this. People are so sick and tired of not having the gym that once it's open, whatever you give them, they're going to be thankful for. So this is going to be a perfect opportunity to be like, hey, we're going to try this thing. It's just a heavy day. We only have 40 minutes. You're going to come in. We're going to do, 5x5 or whatever it is. We're going to warm you up, get you ready. You're going to hit it hard, and then you're going to get the hell out of here.
But, I think part of obviously programming, you can only have one thing a day. But I do believe part of what's probably getting cut out on most of these virtual classes is the actual teaching. So,
Yep.
and part of that is just because it's more simple movements, right? So there are going to be days where Amanda comes up, and although it's a shorter workout, we might need to spend 15 minutes teaching the snatch and muscle up.
Yeah, I absolutely. But I still, I like, that would be challenging, but I still think it's doable to get in. It's like, I remember, when I opened my gym, I had like 1,500 square foot. And before we expanded the space, we had classes with like 25 people in there. And so I had to be very deliberate on what I programmed and how I did things. And I figured out how to make it work, right? And so by the time we expanded to double that, 30 or 3,000 or 3,200 square foot, then everything was super easy and we were able to get it done way faster. So you can still teach. It's the same thing. You've got to be deliberate in what you're doing. Do it with intention. Do it with a purpose. But I think this can end up being a good thing for us.
Cool. Well, we'll know by next week if we're open again.
Are you going to leave your place, or are you just going to stay?
He's going to stay there.
No, I mean, that's what people are saying. Hey, the country. First of all, it's going to roll out slowly, whatever it is. For me, it's not going to change anything until my jiu-jitsu school, and then it'll be like, okay, I go there, and everything else is still the same. I like.
Are you going to social distance in jiu-jitsu?
The only thing they started to do was limit, like, hey, you're only going with these 3 people today. So you're just limiting your interaction.
You're gonna have to mime it out. You're gonna have to like, all right, I'm in a rear naked choke.
Well, and that's kind of like everything we're talking about. It's like, I'm not taking any of the virtual jiu-jitsu classes that my school's offering, just because it's like a lot of what we're saying, it just doesn't motivate me the same way. So it's all very interesting. But I mean,
how many of them have you taken?
Literally 0. I've never logged on.
Cool. So how do you know it doesn't motivate? Like, that's the tough part, right? That's the tough part, dude. Everybody, you say that and you're like, it's not the same. Well, it's not going to be the same. Of course it's not. But is there value in it? And like holding a schedule and having some accountability?
Todd, this is our show, so please don't call me out on my own bullshit.
But
good to have you back, Todd.
I know what the deal was. Jay didn't want to pay his membership anymore, so he didn't log into the thing.
100%.
I was one of the first people to say that
to cancel
support the gym.
For sure.
So,
in fact, I think you should give me a refund because I only got to work out for half a month.
Yeah, this is a non-essential expense for me, so I'm going to need that back.
Am I continuing my membership, but I've actually been coaching a weekly CrossFit class for them, which I did yesterday. But I guess to answer your question with seriousness is it's not motivating me enough to even get on. And it's not a knock on my instructors. The day they open, I will be back working with them. But for me, it's like, I'll just be watching. A lot of the people on there have, maybe they have a roommate that trains, they have a kid. Like, if I ask Roz to let me drill jujitsu on her, it's a hard no. Like, she's gonna say no, right? So it's like for me,
that was such a bad choice of words with everything. But anyways,
I could just go on YouTube. It's really the same principle, right? Like, I can go on YouTube and watch John Danaher, a high-level jiu-jitsu teacher, teach something.
Right, but this brings me back to the whole issue with all of this right now is like, nobody needs me to get fit. They can go on YouTube. They can go, like you said, you can go on Instagram and find a million free workouts. They won't need me even when our gyms open back up. So what is it that would get you to do that? Or are you the type of person that only wants to go to a facility, which I'm guessing that you probably are? So all of these virtual options that we are contemplating and thinking about pushing our members onto doesn't really work because that's not the kind of consumer they are. So it's like,
True.
I look at all this as like, this is a Band-Aid. My consumers are not people that want to do this shit, or they would. There's too many options out there already to do it. So
that's also an important,
new consumers. Yes. But if I think that me doing all these new different things is going to help the people I already have that want to come to my gym, it's probably not. All I'm doing is putting a Band-Aid on it for the short term.
That's an important distinction. That's an important distinction. You should not try to convert your current customers to something like this. This is for a totally separate customer base / demographic who does not want to come to the gym.
And I will say there are going to be people, whether it's because they're still afraid, that stay at home, Or they're going to be people that are like, turns out like me, that I enjoy this. And I'd rather save my $200 now that I've bought a bike and just work out at home. But I guarantee it, this on the flip of that is you're going to have people that started exercising during this quarantine that realize they do need the accountability and the coaching, and they join a box.
Yep, exactly.
So it's going to be, I mean, equal there. And, jiu-jitsu is this different dynamic where, yes, I'm sure the people watching these classes every day are getting better, but it's different. It goes back to the whole measurement, right? Like watching it is not going to be the same as like I'm wrestling with someone. So, it goes back to the same thing. But, obviously fitness is easier because you can do it by yourself. With that.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm with you.
I don't know. I think we talked a lot. I don't know.
I don't even know if we should let this air.
About?
Yeah, I don't even know if we should let this air. There's so many game-changing ideas here. We should probably just lock this one in the vault.
No, I know. I think ultimately what I would say is I like Todd's point. It's like, go back and do what you're really good at and please the people that are supporting you, and then to Fern's point, if you want to do a little something on the side for virtual stuff, just understand that's probably not for your people, or it's like a little extra bonus when they're out of town or when they don't have the time to get into the box, they can hit it. Does that wrap it up? Does that make this airable?
I think so.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah. I think it needs to be, to kind of piggyback, like if you're going to do the virtual, it needs to be very intentional. Like you need to put way more thought into it. It needs to be on a significantly longer timeline if you're going to do that.
Gotcha. Going back to my 50 back squats that I did a couple months ago.
What are the chances you could do that
Yeah.
right now?
Zero.
I could do that any day, anytime for the rest of my life. Just so you know. Just so you're.
Tell me, how have you been doing on the support your local box workouts, Jay?
I did the push-up one.
The first one?
No, I think it was the second. I think it was second. Wasn't
Definitely
burpees
not
first?
The second one. No. So you've been on it then, is what you're saying, because you don't even know what the order is.
It had like 20 hand release push-ups, a movement, 40 hand release. Which one was that?
What are you talking about? That is nothing. That's your other Instagram.
Oh, you know what? That might
Let's support your jiu-jitsu gym. That was the support your jiu-jitsu gym worldwide wide.
One.
Oh, yeah,
that was the United in a Movement one.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Why have you been hitting the support your local box workouts?
I have to do the third one this week.
I have to do all of them this week. If
you do.
I'll beat you guys.
Do you want me to tell you my times as I went, like where I finished and where I was at each step of the way, so you know how far behind you are?
Ooh,
I'm gonna look them up. Hold on. I'm looking up the workouts right now. I'm gonna guess to the second your scores, Todd. Hold on 1 second.
It's because you're gonna look them up based on my scores on there.
Oh, it's like, so they're treating this like, honestly, I've not paid enough attention to this. All right, workout 1. 10 minutes. Oh, I did do that one. I did that workout. 10 minutes of 10 and 9. Remember we were texting about that one? How bad I did?
Yeah.
That was honestly pre-Peloton. I'll give you, to tie a bow on this. That was a perfect example of I just wasn't motivated. I couldn't even get myself to use the 50. I did a 35 and I just couldn't find myself to be motivated, where if we were all like, we're getting on there, we're going to do this together, which we should do. I mean, I would recommend that to people. I did a workout virtually with someone yesterday. You go, I go, and it was the hardest I worked. But let me guess what you got. 10 minutes? You probably got, I know you told me, but I don't remember. You probably got like 7 and change on that.
I got just under 1 rep less of 8 rounds.
All right, there we go. Let's see. For time, 100 double unders, 21 burpees, 75, 59.
I did that one yesterday.
Okay, I'll guess you guys are very similar to fitness, so you probably got about the same score. 2, 3. Todd was in the 6s. Todd was in the 6s on that.
Are you shitting me, Jay?
Is that too fast?
Yeah, not even close, dude.
What'd you
Fern,
get?
what'd you get on that?
I think it was around 10 minutes. I did it like real half-assed, but right before I left the gym yesterday, like I couldn't like get the clock to run. So it was just running and I was like trying to do the math at the end and I just like took my shit and left. But I think it was around 10 minutes.
What'd you get, Todd?
I got 4:22.
Oh, so you did well.
All right.
Okay, 4:22.
You like how he was shocked by that, Todd?
I
thought he undershot me at 6 minutes.
No, I thought you were gonna say like 12. I just figured, the 100 dubs, 2 minutes, the burpees, 3.
That's a minute. 100 double unders is a minute, dude.
All right, I forget how great you are at double unders, Todd. Last workout: 50 dumbbell deadlifts, 50 ab mat sit-ups, 50 box step-ups. I assume you're using the weight with those. That's hard.
No, the step-ups you're not using weight.
Oh, no weight. So 50
No,
dumbbell
thank goodness.
deadlifts, 2, 4, 6, 50 single arm, sub 8. What'd you get?
Oh, I got 638.
All right, I was close, give or take. There we go. You're still relatively fit, Todd.
I don't know how. I guess I got to get that Peloton bike. That's get my
fitness up.
Did you turn 40
this
huh?
year? Both of you guys turn 40 this year?
No, I got another year.
I do.
After this one.
Oh yeah, Fern turns 40 because he cuts his hair.
Mm-hmm.
You gonna shave it?
No.
You gonna go to the length that
no,
Jay's got right now?
I'm gonna either be just longer. I'm gonna be either just longer or just shorter than the Jufro that's going on over there.
Remind me when it is, and I'll send you a case of the mousse that Jay uses. To style it.
It's like that gel, the green. You remember the green gel that you would use in like college?
Yeah, fructose. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Exactly. All right, guys. Good episode. Talk to you later. Thanks for listening to Best Hour of Their Day. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. How cool is that? There's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, so it becomes super simple. Some of these episodes with Fern or Todd or myself chatting with one another, we've done right within the app itself. Anchor will make it easy to distribute your podcast to all platforms, Spotify, Apple, and many more. And you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make an awesome podcast in one place. All you have to do is download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Come on, who doesn't have Spotify at this point? And if you were unaware, Spotify now is offering podcasts. That's right, on Spotify you can listen to all your favorite artists, but also podcasts in one place for free. Spotify has a huge catalog of podcasts on every topic, including the one you're listening to right now, Best Hour of Their Day. On Spotify, you can follow your favorite podcasts so you never miss an episode. Premium users can even download episodes to listen to offline wherever you are, something I always do before I hop on a plane. And you can even easily share what you're listening to with your friends on Instagram and other social media platforms. Here's the deal. If you haven't done so already, be sure to download the Spotify app, search for Best Hour of Their Day on Spotify, or browse some other podcasts if you want. You can find them in your library tab. And also make sure to follow me so you never miss an episode of Best Hour of Their Day. Thanks again for listening to Best Hour of Their Day, and thanks again to our special guest. We appreciate all you guys do for us with Best Hour of Their Day when it comes to sharing our posts on Instagram, when it comes to subscribing to us on YouTube, when it comes to the constant feedback. We are grateful and we appreciate it. We are trying to build a community based on coaching development and becoming the best version of yourself. And it goes without saying that we couldn't do without all of you. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Season 1 of Dropping In is out. We are getting tremendous feedback and we'd love for you to check it out. Leave us a comment on there. Head over to our Instagram. Give us a follow. Like our pictures. Feel free to share anything that resonates with you. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or feedback for us, please don't hesitate. Email us besthouroftheirday@gmail.com. Thanks again. Until the next episode, we hope you've had the best hour of your day.